Hi everyone! I present to you a new series called Gems and Crabs. It will consist of two parts. The first one is a gem. Games that are generally considered to be a very good productions, but for some reason didn't appeal to me. Something didn't click. The second part, Crabs, as you can guess, is the opposite of the first. Games that are considered average at the best have been panned by the public, but for some reason I got hooked on them. And more importantly, I don't regret the money I spent or time I devoted to them. First, I will present the rules that will help organize this series. I'm not going to hate on gems because I didn't like them, and conversely, I will not fiercely defend the crabs because I had fun with a given title. I will calmly express my opinion and, if necessary, I will gladly engage in debate in the comments. Naturally, everything will be done in civilized manner because I realize that this series may raise a lot of surprise and thoughts along the lines of what is this moron talking about? Crab game rules. To be selected as a crab game, it must meet the following conditions. Steam rating, mixed or worse. I have played the game for more than 2 hours. I really enjoy playing it. I do not regret purchasing it at all. Today's episode features Metal Gear Survive. It was released on June 22, 2018, and the initial positive ratings were at 67%, but they immediately dropped to 55%. Currently the rating remains at 64%. It would seem that it's not so bad, but seeing such reviews, everyone asks themselves whether it's worth getting into it at all. So they read the reviews so far, and with this title, unfortunately the cesspool has reached its peak. So what made me stick with this shit for 520 hours? We will get to that in a moment. But first, I list the complaints that have been and continue to be directed at Survive, and there are quite a few. Starting with the biggest cons. Hideo Kojima did a tremendous amount of work for Konami, and it is thanks to him that we have the Metal Gear series. However, Konami fired him and treated him like a leper. I will not delve into the reasons why or whether it was the right move. Shortly after this incident, the game was released and caused an avalanche of negative comments, filled with anger at Konami's action. This is the first brick in the wall of negative opinions. The next one is pay to win, specifically paying $10 for an additional character slot. Then there are asset flips, the use of the same models as in Metal Gear Solid Phantom Pain. Simulator of stabbing with a spear through a fence. On top of that, there is a need to be online all the time, also green. And ironically, survival elements. My 2 cents on these negatives. I think they are unfair. A lot of opinions were expressed by people who jumped on the hate train, and it was trendy to bash this game for its very existence. The accusations of pay to win in a game without PvP sounds particularly ridiculous. However, I agree that microtransactions in a game we paid for are achieved on a larger scale. Since I'm not blind, here are the disadvantages of this game in my opinion. The storyline in Metal Gear Survive is terribly boring. The first time I played the game, right after its release, I was happy to finally finish it. But now, when I recently replayed the campaign, I got flashbacks of boredom with a powerful dose of yawing. Story is about how you end up in an alternate world from which we want to escape. But wait a minute, it's not that simple. We still have to complete a mission assigned by Morpheus. This mission involves finding the members of the previous team who end up here and finding out why the contact was lost. In practice, the gameplay looks like this. You go to point A, pick up something or someone, return to base, repeat. The dialogues are sparse. Our character is mute. There are practically no interesting interludes here. And when something interesting starts to happen, we just finish the story. Throughout our entire adventure, 2 events stuck in my memory. One being the appearance of a huge creature, and the other being the plot twist at the very end of the game. Another drawback is the interface and controls, which are terribly unintuitive. Often, instead of changing my equipment, I would throw a Molotov cocktail or change weapons. I play with a keyboard and mouse, and it still took me a while to get used to it. As for the interface, I would prefer our inventory to be visible in corners of screen while running, instead of next to the character. Then there is need to be online all the time. I don't like it when games force you to be online when running solo. From the beginning there was also a problem with finding people for co-op missions. From what I remember, at first the game couldn't match players, and then it was too late to fix it because no one was playing anymore. So a group was formed on Discord, bringing together people willing to play. When I recently returned to Survive, it was hard for me to look at the character models in particular. as the faces look artificial and plastic. After the release, it didn't bother me that much, but now I had to get used to these graphics, which have aged a bit poorly. And the last downside is the content. The game had enormous potential for expansion. The character classes have empty slots for possible skills, which unfortunately were never added. The same goes for the maps. There are 5 maps for co-op. Each map has several variants, missions, and sites from which the enemy attacks, but it's still only 5 maps to play on. There could also be more combat equipment. At first I thought and hoped for an update with new buildings to unlock and place in our base, such as workshop for vehicles and walking machines, that we could customize and then summon to the battlefield. Potential is completely untapped, but that's due to the reviews. Konami didn't want to continue with it because of the poor reviews. And now I get to the point of why I keep coming back to this game. The storyline is just an introduction to the game. It's the longest tutorial ever created. I say this because after completing the story, we unlock a number of new features, such as bosses on the map, continue to acquire new recipes for better and better equipment, we level up and gain access to new maps in co-op, we can launch defenses for our base with more and more enemies and better rewards. These defenses during the story are a piece of cake. It's boring as hell there, but here and on missions at the hardest level, the action is almost non-stop. However, the most important thing is to unlock character classes, and there are 4 of them. Each class has unique skills that make life much easier, but also allow you to develop builds for your character. For example, you can create a ranger who regenerates arrows with headshots, or a scout who collects all items from the area at once, and also can set up buffed fortifications. Each class also has active skills, which makes eliminating opponents even more enjoyable. Survival elements, obtaining food, water, materials needed to expand the base and create new traps. I love the themes of running your base and upgrading it. That's part of what keeps me here. But the most enjoyable are the defense challenges on the maps. Developing tactics, where and what to place to hold off the enemy for as long as possible. We always have a little time. We have to run around the map collecting and killing targets from mini side quests to get an additional turret for defense, and it will definitely come in handy. Of course, playing in co-op mode is even better. When you have someone to play with, Survive becomes even more enjoyable. We share our opinions and work together to defeat a much larger enemy. The combat is enjoyable, thanks to the use of engine from the 5th Metal Gear Solid. I finished Phantom Pain close to 100%. I don't remember exactly, but I know that I still wanted more and there was nothing left to do. It's same here. I could let it go, but after a long break I come back to destroy hundreds of pseudo-zombies and it's a lot of fun. After completing the campaign, we also get the opportunity to recruit a crew for the base. They are ordinary NPCs, but we can then send them on additional missions from which they bring back better and better loot. Thanks to them, the overall efficiency of our base also increases. The music is also a big plus, but unfortunately, most of it is a collection of tracks from previous Konami productions. This does not change the fact that it is pleasant to listen to the radio at the base. I would give the game itself a final rating of 4 of 5. I waffled a bit about whether to give it a 3, but considering how much happens after the tutorial storyline ends, I think 4 is a fair rating. It's a shame that the story turned out of the way it did. I mean that the game was poorly received. I'm curious what Konami would have added here, what the final shape of this production would have looked like. Would I recommend Survival today? Yes, as long as you can get through the storyline. It's fun to plan your defense and destroy the crystal people. However, there are precautions. The game is getting old and it's unclear how long the servers will remain up. If they go down, the game will probably disappear for good. The second point is that it's best to have someone to play with, because playing alone isn't as much fun and definitely more difficult. And the last thing is the price. I'm shocked at how much this game still costs without a promotion. So if you are going to buy it, only buy it on sale. Thanks for your attention and have a nice day. Bye.